If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, and share so we can find others like yourself. Welcome to the Bitcoin Basics podcast with your hosts, Faris and Gordon from CoinCompass.com, enabling you to safely buy and securely store your Bitcoins. All resources are in the show notes and description, including our disclaimer. Visit BitcoinBasicsPodcast.com to subscribe and discover other free content.
Go for it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Bitcoin Basics podcast. We are in day 24 of our 30 Days of Bitcoin special. So we're heading into the last week. I am Faris here with Gordon. How you doing tonight, Gordon?
I'm pretty good, thanks. Day 24. We're almost there, Faris.
We are, last week. So I said, how you doing tonight? So it is 7:17 a.m. Universal Time, Sunday, 26th of April. The blockchain height is, what are we at? 627,676. And the price of Bitcoin, according to Bitstamp, is at 7,566. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, essentially this is our proof of recording. The blockchain height is how many blocks have made it through on the Bitcoin blockchain. And Gordon, what is our question for this evening? What are we tackling first?
Okay, let's hit it.
What will happen if two Bitcoin miners solve the mathematical code at the same time? And will they likely share 50-50 of the rewards?
Yeah, this is a common question. Actually, we get quite a lot. So, Faris, what do you think happens when two miners solve the puzzle at the same time?
So just a preamble to this, Gordon and I don't actually discuss the questions before we come on air. We kind of want this to be an open conversation. We both are still learning from each other. And this is a tech question where Gordon's a lot more competent to answer. My understanding is that I don't think this would happen simply because computers, can count to the microseconds. So I don't see the possibilities of miners getting the reward at the exact same time. That would be my guess. But Gordon, can you elucidate, please?
Yeah, this is a common question. It's a good question, but a lot of people wonder about this. So it's not that computers solve the puzzle at exactly the right time. We're talking about this Rubik's Cube puzzle, because as you said, Faris, that would almost be impossible. It's more that the other miners on the network that are connected to that miner, some miners might think that one miner solved it before another miner, simply due to the latency of the internet. So an example that I like to give, if you've got two miners at opposite ends of the world, so for example, Faris is in New Zealand, I'm in, sunny London, we may solve the problem at almost the same time. And now we're talking a difference of a couple of milliseconds. So let's say Faris solved it half a second faster than I did. Well, the miners that are closest to him, the miners connected to him, so in the Asia Pacific region, for example, will think that he was the one who solved the puzzle first. Whereas the miners in my neck of the woods in the UK and Europe think that I solved the puzzle first, even though Faris may have actually solved it half a second beforehand. And so Bitcoin is a network. And the way that I like to explain it is like a game of bingo. And for those who are listening who maybe don't know what bingo is, this is the game where you have numbers, or you pay for a card of numbers, and someone at the front yells out some random numbers, and they draw some numbers from a box or a barrel or something like that. And then the first person to get, say, a row of numbers or something like that is the winner. Well, it's like playing bingo, but in a massive hall, or maybe bingo in a small city or a neighborhood. You may have winners on two opposite ends of the hall, or two opposite ends of, say, a little city or a town or a street or something like that. Half the people might think that one person solved it, whereas the other half might think the other person solved it, purely because they were closest to that particular person. So in this case, they were closest to that particular miner. This actually happens quite a lot in Bitcoin. It happens 2 or 3 times a week. It's not a problem, because even though you have a temporary, I guess, what is called a split in the Bitcoin network, it gets resolved exactly the next block. So two miners solving the problem at the same time is unlikely, but it does sometimes happen. Two miners solving the same puzzle at the same time twice in a row, I don't think has ever happened. So all we have is a 10-minute window where you have some miners thinking that Faris's miner was the one to solve the problem first. And you have other miners, and it might not be a 50-50 split. It could be 60-40, 70-30, 49-51, think that the other person solved it. But it gets resolved in the next window of time, in the next block. And that's how the Bitcoin network works. That's how it sort of repairs itself. That's how consensus that we've discussed before, this democracy of miners deciding on which miner and which puzzle is the best one.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, and share so we can find others like yourself.
Sorry, Gordon, just on that. So if you did have a 51% say it was my miner that got there and not yours, why would you have to wait till the next block? Why can't it be resolved that block if you had consensus?
Because I guess you don't want to rely on one particular block because, for example, someone could be doing a 51% attack on the network. There could be other reasons why you might not want to confirm something instantaneously. And that's a good point. So that's why we have this notion of confirmations in the Bitcoin blockchain. You have these miners validating these transactions, solving this puzzle. But really, the longer the Bitcoin network goes on, the stronger it is and the more secure and sort of valid Bitcoin transactions are. So if I send you a Bitcoin right now, that's somewhere in the Bitcoin network being processed, and we call that unconfirmed. And the reason why it's unconfirmed is we're still talking about the current window, the current block, the current 10-minute period. So once the miner solves that puzzle, all the miners move on to the next block. And what they do is they sort of use the previous block as sort of like a timestamp or a bookmark to sort of build upon. So remember in the last podcast, Faris was talking about, building the pyramids as proof of work in the analog world. Well, then in the digital world, we're doing the same thing. We're building this skyscraper, this digital pyramid, where you don't start at the top, you can work your way down to the bottom. You start at the bottom, work your way on the top. So there may be a case where, as you said, 51% of miners are following you. 49% of miners are actually following me. They're actually using my previous block, and they're using that as a bookmark to build upon the next block because they don't know that you have solved that faster than I have. And that's why it's really important, especially as a merchant and when you're sending and receiving money, you don't rely on unconfirmed transactions. In the past, what you did is you relied on 6 transactions. So 6 times 10 minutes is around about an hour. Now the Bitcoin network is so fast is so secure, not fast, so secure that you can get away with 2 to 3 transactions.
So yeah, thanks. Sorry. So with that, Gordon, thanks. You've explained it really well. And the way I'm picturing it in my head is if I'm driving down a road and that road has a fork in it, I don't see the other fork, but then that second block is on the other road. All of a sudden my road comes to a dead end. Then I've got to just jump back on the other side.
I guess magically, if you could jump back onto the other side, yeah. It's not really how it works, but yeah, I mean, that's in theory, that kind of works. Basically, what happens is once that second block gets mined, everyone moves back over to your chain. So for example, and all the previous blocks work from my chain is completely discarded. And that's what's called a stale block. And they just get as if they never ever happen. And that's the reason why you don't want to, when you're buying and selling, you don't want to rely on an unconfirmed or just one confirmation, because the same thing can happen, which is why when you're withdrawing money from an exchange, they usually don't do it on one confirmation. They do it on 2, 3 confirmations, because you may have this temporary split in the Bitcoin network. It's not a 51% attack. It's not anyone doing anything dodgy. It's simply a temporary split. But if I withdrew funds, for example, from Bitcoin exchange and then immediately sent those funds straight away, the next block that I was actually working on this other chain, it's as if those funds never existed and the Bitcoin exchange has basically lost all the money.
Yeah, I like the point, Gordon, where you said it's like democratic. And I suppose the example would be is if, when CNN and all these and Fox, they call election results before they happen. And they can be wrong.
The media's wrong? What are you talking about? CNN? And very last point on that is that, no one splits the miner rewards. You don't have this 50-50 where 50 goes to one miner or the other. Yeah, it's a winner takes all. And that's also one of the reasons why when a Bitcoin miner solves this puzzle, they don't get what's called the block reward, the 12.5 Bitcoins as it currently is at the moment. They don't get that instantaneously because of this kind of situation, or maybe there's attack on the network or there's something wrong with the network. They actually don't get paid out until another 120 blocks. So they don't actually get the reward instantaneously.
Okay, thank you, Gordon. That's explained it to me, guys. And again, if you're not happy with the answers that we've provided, please get in touch with us, coincompass.com. And yeah, we've only got 6 more episodes to go. We probably have room for, I think, maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So go to coincompass.com/ask.
Thanks for watching or listening. Please visit coincompass.com/free to register to our socials and discover other free content. Subscribing, liking, and following helps this content remain ad-free. Until next time.